You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. So it appears the Democrats have decided on the narrative that they're going to be pushing regarding vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance. They're not going after his record. They're not going after his politics. They're not going after really anything about him. To some extent, they're trying to attach him to Project 2025, but even that it's funny. They pull a clip from 2021 to say that he supports Project 2025, which is a 900-page document that came out this year. Democrat logic is illogical, of course, but they have been pushing now since the weekend and now on to this week. They've been pushing two words: creepy and weird. That's the narrative. That's what they're going to be pushing. That's what they've decided. You know what? Let's get J.D. Vance labeled as creepy and weird. Now, to be fair, the strategy itself, okay, the concept of placing a stigma, because that's really what this is about, of placing a stigma on a candidate has been around for a long time, but it was truly mastered by President Donald J. Trump. He's the one that, everybody remembers Crooked Hillary or Low Energy Jeb or Little Marco. That was a good one. Sleepy Joe. Lion Ted, that one worked. I mean, they work. Okay, Trump's nicknames, they just generally work, and so Democrats are trying to go for a combination here, which is sort of odd. They're going for weird J.D. Vance. They're going for creepy J.D. Vance. Now, it's funny because the things that they're kind of latching onto, as is always the case with Democrats and their attempts to smear somebody, they're pulling everything they can out of context to try to associate J.D. Vance with some sort of weirdness, creepiness, whatever. They're saying that he's going after women, that he doesn't like cat ladies. Again, I don't want to downplay the effectiveness of such campaigns, because these work. Okay, they don't work for you probably. They don't work for me for sure, but they do work on your average low information voter. Okay, they get this stigma, because it's really what it's about. They get this stigma and this perception about a candidate, and if it's repeated often enough, and they're repeating it ad nauseum right now, if it's repeated often enough, then it generally sticks, and there's not much that you can do about it. If you address it, if J.D. Vance were to come out and address it, and he sort of laughed it off. The couple of times when I've seen him during interviews asked about, hey, they're saying that you're weird, and he just kind of laughs it off. Unfortunately, that's all he can do. I mean, there's not much that they can do other than what we're doing right here today, which is to alert as many people as possible as to the reality here. Because J.D. Vance is a lot of things, but he's not creepy by any means, okay? He's an ex-Marine, served our country. He's never demonstrated any creepiness, and it's funny coming from a party that has people like Joe Biden and Kill List Hillary on their side of the fence. Don't even get me started on Nancy Pelosi. Talk about creepy. Coughing me or choking me up thinking about Nancy. I'm going to stop. No more Nancy reference. Well, maybe one more Nancy reference later today. But yeah, they seem to be pretty rock solid on their intention of promoting this ludicrous concept. When it comes to weird, look, I mean, I guess he's weird to some people. He's a pretty normal, above average guy to me. I've never been like, oh my gosh, J.D. Vance is like fantastic. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, J.D. Vance might be better than Trump. I'm like, really? Okay, he might be a continuation of Trump, which is a good thing. As I've said many times, your vice president should not be somebody who is a foil or an opposite of you. Your vice president should be somebody who's in lockstep, because God forbid something happens to the president. You want a vice president that's going to be basically take the policies, take the reins, and just keep going. No changes, nothing. And that's J.D. Vance does represent that. I think that he is in lockstep with Donald Trump, at least now. They could go after the fact that he was a never Trumper. They can go after all these things. For whatever reason, and I guess, they've got more money into the studies than I do, and they probably have a better understanding of low information voters than I do. I would hope they would. But with that said, this is the narrative that they're pushing. So we're going to have to deal with it. And again, the best way to do that is to make people aware. Talk to people. Be like, oh, I heard that JD Vance is creepy. You'd be like, oh, give me a break. Are you falling for that brainwashing, that indoctrination? It's a stigma. They basically said it with no evidence, no proof, nothing to demonstrate that he's creepy, other than saying that he's against crazy cat ladies. Is that weird? Are you in favor of crazy cat ladies? I don't know. I mean, address it how you want, but the point is we have to inform people. We have to let them know that this is a narrative. It is a campaign strategy. It's not based upon anything other than trying to do whatever they can to diffuse the momentum that the Trump-Vance ticket is currently enjoying. Speaking of creepy, let's hear an example of them promoting the creepy narrative, and it's ironic that they picked, I would say, top 5 creepiest guys in Congress today. They picked Eric Swalwell to promote the creepy narratives. Watch.
When it comes to the vice presidential sweepstakes, there's one name that I keep focusing on: J.D. Vance. He absolutely cannot be the vice president of the United States, and so anyone she picks will be eminently more qualified than a guy who thinks that if you're a single, hardworking woman in America, you should have to pay more in taxes. Again, this is just bizarre, doesn't make any sense. And by the way, if you are single and you meet someone and you want to start a family, J.D. Vance doesn't support you using IVF to start that family. And say, unfortunately, you start a family and your spouse becomes violent, he has said that he thinks that you should be forced to stay in a violent marriage. So I don't think Kamala Harris is going to pick anyone as weird and creepy as J.D. Vance. She has a blessing of talented candidates to choose from, and I look forward to hearing from that selection committee soon.
Good folks over at Tenant Media put that together. You can always tell because they like purple, and I'll admit, I like their style. I prefer it to I prefer it to some of the styles that other video channels or whatever are using. You can see it, you can read it. The one thing I don't like is the one that's like, well, they use all white or all black, and depending upon the background, you can't actually really see it. You can always read if you're trying to follow along. And like, let's say you're at work and you don't want to play the sound, but you want to read the words, then good stuff. Okay, anyway. But regarding Eric Swalwell, I mean, there was at least 3 lies that I heard, and I kind of stopped listening. It's hard to listen to that guy for longer than like 15 seconds. He starts to grate in your ears, and it's like, well, he's weird and creepy is what he is, and that's legit. He's not running for anything of importance, so I'm not saying that as a campaign attack or to try to put a stigma on him. He's done that to himself. The dude is legitimately weird and legitimately creepy, but J.D. Vance is not. Got a pretty decent show. I don't want to say this is a great show because everybody always says, we got a great show, we got a blockbuster show. Today's, I'm going to put it at about average. Okay, we got an about average show today. Thankfully, my shows are always amazing, so being an average show for me means that you're about to see something truly legitimately amazing. Before we get to that, I want to give a brief shout out to my good partners over at Genesis Gold Group. Be sure to check them out at rumblegold.com. If you have a retirement, you have wealth that you want to protect with physical precious metals, you can contact Genesis Gold Group at rumblegold.com, and you'll be able to get it all set up for, they'll walk you through it, how to do a rollover or a transfer into physical precious metals, and they won't do any cons or anything like that, such as offering you $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 in free silver, because folks, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but when they start offering that, it ain't free. You're paying for it in the back end. You just don't know it. You just don't know. The metals that you actually do buy, they just tack on the cost. That's it. Don't worry. Yeah, you're going to be paying. Anyway, you get the idea. So check them out, rumblegold.com. There was, I would say, not breaking news, but interesting news over the weekend that popped up. The CIA, the deep state, decided to address something that I didn't even know was an issue, but apparently it was, because they decided to come out and say that the Trump shooter, Thomas Michael Crooks, was not a subject of the MK Ultra program. Now, for those who don't know what MK Ultra is, I'm not going to tell you. Just look it up because it's a rabbit hole, and I don't like rabbit holes. Okay? Oh, I lie. I do. I actually love rabbit holes, but I don't like spending a whole lot of time on the show going down rabbit holes. I prefer to just go down the rabbit hole myself and then just report back the concise version to you. But according to this article over at modernity.news, CIA denies Trump shooter was subject of MK Ultra project. Only makes people believe he was. And the brilliant Steve Watson, of course, he's got away with things, with words. He's good at words, like Steve. According to the article, the CIA has actually taken time to issue a denial that would-be Trump assassin Thomas Matthew Crooks was part of an infamous agency mind control program. In the wake of a lack of information on Crooks' background and an empty social media footprint, along with a plethora of unanswered questions regarding his whereabouts and activities on the day of the shooting, speculation is now rife that he was some sort of patsy to the forces that want Trump out of the picture. Many have suggested that Crooks may have been MK Ultra'd, referring to a mind control experiment conducted by the CIA between 1953 and 1973, where an agency used psychoactive drugs and sensory experiments on subjects in an attempt to control their behavior. Now, this real quick side note before, let's be clear. The CIA and other intelligence agencies across the globe, but particularly the CIA, and whoever they're, any shadow versions of the CIA that we know nothing about, they are definitely still engaged. This did not end in 1973. It just went underground, further underground, deeper underground than we can ever find. They have been working on mind control since the 50s, and they have never stopped. Okay? This has been, I would argue, one of their top 5 most important projects. And for all we know, if I were to guess if they've truly mastered mind control by now, I would say, yeah. I'd say probably an 70-80% chance, at least to some extent. I'm not saying that they have like a joystick and they, walk to the left and turn around, and they might have that. But no, I'm saying they have, they're able to put suggestions, invoke emotions, stimulate parts of the brain that might make somebody more passive or might make somebody else more aggressive, maybe tickle certain parts of the cerebellum that make a person react in a certain way, or that could make them confused, or there's no telling. And could it be chemical? Sure. Could it be radioactive? Absolutely. Could it be, just in the airwaves? And I know a lot of people talk about 5G as a way of mind control. Could be. Could it be part of the mRNA vaccine thing? You betcha. It could be any of these things. It could be all of those things. It could be none of those things. I don't know. I used to watch Art Bell back in the days when Coast to Coast AM was still good. And I say watch, listen to Art Bell. And he would have guests on that would talk about various types of mind control. And it always went back to the CIA. It always went back to extensions of MK Ultra. Bottom line is that we can say with a fair, I would say not certainty, but with a high probability that at least some version of mind manipulation is definitely within the technological abilities of certain agencies. I think that's clear. Now, whether or not they use it, how they use it, when they use it, who they use it on, I couldn't tell you. Maybe it's everybody, maybe it's nobody. It's probably somewhere in between. Maybe I'm controlled. Would I know if I were? Could you see it in my eyes? Am I suddenly a deep stater? No. I wear my tinfoil hat very, very tightly when I see that CIA van parked outside. Anyway, see, I told you, I don't like going down rabbit holes. Back to the article, though. Remarkably, the CIA has responded to the accusations, telling Gizmodo, why Gizmodo? These claims are utterly false, absurd, and damaging. Well, they may be false. I would say probably over 50% chance they were false. That they don't necessarily need to control a guy through some sort of MK Ultra technology in order to groom a person or to take a person and brainwash them just through standard human means or hypnotic means or whatever. So yeah, I would say that's probably it could be false. It probably is false. It's definitely not absurd. And no, I don't think it's damaging at all. I mean, how's it damaging? You got a bunch of conspiracy theorists who think that he was MK Ultra. That's not damaging. They're going to think that either way. And if they think it, then that doesn't affect anything. If they don't think it, it still doesn't affect anything. So I'm not sure what they mean by damaging. Back to the article. The statement adds that the CIA had no relationship whatsoever with Thomas Crooks. Now, lest we forget, the CIA is literally in the business of lies. I mean, that's what they do. So anything that they ever say to anybody at any moment, it could be a lie. As a matter of fact, I'd argue that it almost certainly is a lie to some extent. They would never tell the whole truth. Oftentimes they never tell any of the truth, and they try to, sometimes they'll sprinkle in some of the truth, but if they do sprinkle in some of the truth, it's only to give credibility to the lies. That's how they operate. That's how they've operated for decades. It's not just them. Okay, the intelligence community deals in information. People think that it's all about, got to send James Bond in to assassinate somebody. That's part of it, of course, but that's a very, very, very small part. A lot of it is in collecting information, utilizing that information, and controlling people. Sometimes not even through mind control. Sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, dude, found the porn on your laptop. It'd be a shame if that were to come out. Why don't you just do what we say? Hey, we got the Epstein tapes. Why don't you just do what we say? And as I think most in my audience know, there's at least a 90% chance that Jeffrey Epstein and Giselle, whatever was Maxwell. Gosh, how did I forget her name? It's actually been so long since I've talked about her. Ghislaine? Is it Ghislaine? Gosh, it's a weird name, weird spelling, weird pronunciation. Maxwell, his lady friend. There's at least a 90% chance that one or both of them were working for the CIA or Mossad or both. So, the deep state's control is manufactured. It's not granted. It's not given out. It's not willing. People don't just say, hey, deep state, take control. It's always like, hey, you're in the clutches of the deep state. We control you now. We own you now. Funny, true story. I did actually talk to somebody who at one point, this was just over the weekend, I talked to somebody who at one point I had thought was part of the deep state. Okay, a deep state shill. And we started talking on something totally random. I can't go into details yet, but the circumstances behind us meeting was very, I don't know, awesome in a way, because now I'm thoroughly convinced that this person is definitely not deep state, and that the whole narrative about this person being a deep state shill was probably initiated by the actual deep state. But that's a whole other story. Hopefully, Lord willing, I'll be able to tell that story in the days or weeks to come, because it is pretty funny. Okay, back to the story. It further is a statement that we'll just reread it. The statement adds that the CIA had no relationship whatsoever with Thomas Crooks. It further states that regarding MK Ultra, the CIA's program was shut down more than 40 years ago, and classified information about the program is publicly available on CIA.gov. I've actually been to that website before. It is full of useful information as far as if you want to learn what they want you to think. That's it. That's what they want you to think. Unfortunately, trust in the intelligence agency is at such a low that anything they say just makes people believe the exact opposite. And that's true. And that's probably, we have to be very careful, by the way, because it's kind of like playing a game of, what is it? Not chicken. What's the game where you put down the cards? Anyway, it's sort of like playing a game of BS. That's what it's called. I don't know if there's an official name for it, but where, anyway, you probably understand the type of game that I'm talking about, where you're trying to represent your hand, and sometimes there are times when even being known as a liar can be a benefit. You just tell people the truth and they'll automatically assume that it's a lie. The CIA is very good at this stuff. They're not as great, I think, as a lot of people give them credit for. They do make mistakes. They are vulnerable in some ways. And that's natural, because they become so powerful. So they have so much control over so many people that they get sloppy. That's just part of human nature. Okay, they start to get a little bit maybe too bold, too aggressive, they stick their necks out a little bit too far, and sometimes they do get cut. And when that happens, that's when what they would consider to be bad things, but I would consider them to be good things, that's when that kind of stuff does take place. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, talk about Kamala being a communist. We'll talk about, of course, the Paris Olympics. How can we not talk about the debacle of an opening ceremony? We'll talk about Gavin Newsom trying to censor the funny. So, all that. So coming up. So stay tuned. Owning a company can be hard sometimes, but there are certain benefits that I do take advantage of as the owner of a long-term storage beef company. One of the benefits that I have is that I can use my promo code to give to people and give the best possible discount at any given time. We have discounts that range from 5% all the way up. It depends upon what's happening in the world, what's happening with the beef, what's happening with the cattle itself, the ranching industry. So my promo code is really simple. It's JDR, and I would recommend going and ignore whatever it says up top as far as what the discount is. It's just when you go to checkout, look at the beef, buy your long-term storage beef. It's ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all the good stuff. No beef crumbles or anything like that. Go there, use promo code JDR, and see what sort of amazing discount is going on at that particular moment. That is, like I said, it's a fringe benefit, so to speak, of being one of the owners, and I'm very, very blessed to do it. Now, as far as the company itself, this is a veteran-owned company. This is a company that only works with the best American ranchers, the best Texas ranchers, to be specific, out there. Our cattle never comes foreign, and believe it or not, even if it says product of the USA, there's a good chance, especially at the grocery store, that it actually is only a product of the USA, but it's actually imported cattle from Canada, South Korea, Australia, Brazil, wherever, right? It's a long story about how this one industry, just the beef industry, is the only one where you can do that. It's a conspiracy, I tell you, it really is. But but ours is actual Texas born, Texas raised, Texas slaughtered, Texas freeze dried, and then Texas packaged until it gets to you. So don't mess with Texas. Anyway, use promo code JDR. Go check out the site. Make sure to use promo code JDR, and whatever the best discount is at that given moment, you're going to get it. That's my promise to you. So go check it out. Let me actually pull up the site. It makes it easier. Go check it out. We've got again, freeze-dried New York strip, tenderloin. Got lots of great people out there helping us. All American beef, high-quality stuff. No lab-grown meat ever. No mRNA jabs ever. Nothing that could kill you. Unless you choke, of course. Don't choke. It's a good quality stuff. One ingredient, only beef. We don't even add salt to it so that it works with just about any diet. Be sure to check it out and use promo code JDR at preparewithbeef.com. That's preparewithbeef.com. There's a new shocking report coming out of, everywhere. According to common sense, it appears that Kamala Harris is a communist. I know that's probably not as shocking to some of you as it is to others, and maybe it's not shocking to anybody. Maybe people are really starting to wake up to the idea. That they know it. They being the Democrats, Kamala Harris's own campaign, they are doing everything they can to erase the past, to erase everything that she said, to say, no, she wasn't the border czar. She was totally not in favor of defunding the police. They're taking this out of context. She didn't support that Minnesota felon fund or whatever it was called, where they bailed out people who would then commit violent crimes. She didn't do any of that stuff. No, she's not all super mega ultra in favor of she didn't co-sponsor the Green New Deal or anything crazy like that. That would make her a communist, and she's not a communist. She's just anti-Kamala. Yeah, that's what they want you to think, except hopefully people are really starting to wake up to the idea that she, and it's funny because one of the reasons that she didn't get that label nearly as much is because her first presidential run was just so abysmal. I mean, she still to this day has never had a single primary voter, not a one. I mean, she even when she ran solo against Joe Biden back in 2020, I think she didn't even make it into 2020, did she? I think she actually canceled her campaign in 2019 because she ran out of money. That seems to be apropos for a Democrat candidate today. But there's an article over at Headline USA that highlights that Kamala channels her inner Marxist. Everyone ends up in the same place, and that is called, of course, communism. We'll read a little bit of it, but I want to play this video because it really demonstrates just who Kamala Harris is and what she truly believes. And if you think that she's going to be a moderate, then wake up. If you think that she has any core values whatsoever, look, she chose to be a communist. She made that willing decision based upon probably advice from her peers that said, hey, you got to be to the left of Bernie Sanders if you want to win, because Bernie's old, and they're going to try to go for somebody who's going to be like Bernie Sanders because the radicals are taking over and the Justice Democrats are taking over and AOC, and that's the future of the Democrat Party. So instead of going up against all these moderates, let them all fight for the moderate lane. You're going to take the radical lane. You're going to beat Bernie Sanders, and then you're going to be the president. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And of course, it did not happen. Praise God for that. But then they selected her as vice president, probably out of the most important and second most brilliant move that Joe Biden ever made in his political career, which was to name her as his ultimate insurance policy to prevent them from trying to invoke the 25th Amendment against him. And then once they finally said, look, we don't care, we're going to take her over you because she can be better president. We'll invoke the 25th Amendment. She might not be able to be a better president, but at least she won't destroy the ticket. We'll put her in as president for a while, and then we'll run our own candidate. That led us to the best move, most brilliant political move that Joe Biden ever made, is that when he, it's probably Taco, Jill, and Hunter that made the decision, but when they said, hey, yes, I'm going to go ahead and drop out, and we're going to endorse Kamala Harris, and we're going to call all the cronies and say, hey, you guys need to endorse Kamala as well, and the next thing you know, Obama is steaming and is like, wait a second, that wasn't part of the plan. What are we going to do? Dang it, Joe. Never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. That's what he probably literally said to Nancy Pelosi at the time. But I digress. Let's read this. It's from Louis Cornelio over at Headline USA. Vice President Kamala Harris has recently used rhetoric reminiscent of Karl Marx, the author of the Communist Manifesto, in her attempts to define equity. A video compilation shared by the conservative page End Wokeness on Friday showed Harris discussing the concepts of equitable distribution and everybody ends up in the same place. I'm going to have to, we'll get to Karl Marx in a second. Though these remarks came as Harris explained the difference between equality and equity, and why the latter is needed in public policy. Some quotes. You know what? Let's just play the video itself.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place, right? We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. Proud of the fact that we understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base. We see that people in our country are having an experience that is not equal. So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do in the spirit and in the interest of equity. To put equity firmly at the center of our economic policy. But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners.
So in other words, Kamala Harris is saying, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. In other words, these famous words spoken by Karl Marx written by Karl Marx back in around 1875, really reverberated, and it's happening. It's happening. This is what we're seeing already. We don't even need Kamala Harris in the Oval Office to see that this mentality is already taking over across the board here in the United States of America and across Western society in general. And that's part of the plan. That's always been part of the plan. This is why Klaus Schwab and Henry Kissinger got together in the early 70s with the Club of Rome and decided that this is how they're going to push it. But they're not going to push it in this Marxist format. They're going to use neo-Marxism and cultural Marxism to attack and destroy Western society so that they can then usher in their 10 regional powers that they can control from a central point, very reminiscent, of course, to prophecy in the Bible. I don't know if they were taking that into account or if they were inspired by the Prince of Darkness himself. But somewhere along the lines, their plan seems to match pretty nicely with what the Bible says is going to happen. So buckle up, folks. I'm just saying. I am just saying. So yeah, we're seeing the seeds of communism. Well, I shouldn't say seeing them being planted. They've been planted for a long time here in the United States. Now they're getting nurtured and watered and fertilized. You got people like Kamala Harris and Eric Swalwell and even Joe Biden and Barack Obama crapping all over the place to fertilize their seeds of communism that are now sprouting forth here in the United States of America. We never thought it could happen. Anybody who grew up in the 80s, communism was pure evil. I mean, even the left, even Democrats thought, oh, communism, that's bad stuff. At least that's what they pretended to think back then. It wasn't until Barack Obama and the rise of, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe we just need to give it a try. Maybe it's never truly been tried. Well, they tried it in Venezuela. They've been trying it in Venezuela. Now they can't get out of it no matter what happens. As many of you know, Nicolas Maduro had a victory yesterday. And now that victory, which was clearly false. I mean, there was like a 34, the exit polls showed that he was 34 points down. Exit polls. We're not talking about previous polls. We're talking about exit polls. People going to the ballot box, filling out their ballot. They leave. Wall Street Journal asked them how they voted. 34 points he was down, and yet somehow he allegedly wins by 7 points or something like that. That's a lie. I mean, it's like I'm not very happy with the lukewarm milquetoast responses from the international community saying there are some questions that need to be answered. This doesn't seem right. There seems to be perhaps some possible, maybe sort of kind of shenanigans that are happening in the Venezuela. Well, no, it was just flat out stolen. I always say you can vote socialism in, you just can't vote it out, and there's no way that Nicolas Maduro is going to allow something as dumb as an election get in his way. And we are facing the exact same thing. You might say, oh, but we're not Venezuela. Yeah, we're almost there. It's a heck of a lot closer than anyone could possibly believe. If the Democrats are able to steal the 2024 election across the board, if they're able to somehow magically, mysteriously take over Congress, take over the House, take over the Senate, and of course take over the White House, then we will, with a 94% certainty, we will be essentially a democratic socialist nation. This is how they'll probably put it. It'll be communism. It'll be a version of neo-Marxism that will set us up for the fall. There will be no more United States of America within a matter of years, possibly even months, after all of this takes place, which is why I continue to fight. Look, I don't like fighting political battles, okay? I don't. I really don't. I would much rather fight on the cultural and faith-driven side of things. But politics, right now, in this election year, this is what's driving not just the narrative, but it's also driving the agenda. Now, does that mean that we need to focus strictly on it right now? Absolutely not. But it does deserve some of our attention, if not most of our attention, because we are facing an existential threat as a result of this election. We cannot just win. We have to win by landslides. Some of you will say, oh, but Republicans are no better than Democrats. I would argue that Republicans are marginally better than Democrats. I would argue that Donald Trump is exponentially better than Kamala Harris or whoever ends up being the nominee, because I'm still not at 100% sure that Kamala Harris is, until the day, I'm with Trump on this one, until the day that she is rock solid, printed on the ballot, DNC approves it, everything's signed, sealed, unchangeable. Only then will I be like, oh yeah, so Kamala is definitely going to be the nominee. I still think there is the possibility for some strange shenanigans happening. Speaking of shenanigans, we got to witness a whole bunch of it over the weekend if you were watching the Olympics, which I was not. And to be clear, I've instructed team over at thelibertydaily.com as well as noqreport.com, no Olympics talk, nothing, not a bit. If it's about, for example, the clear display of demonic activity that took place during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, that's fine. That's fair game. Let's talk about that. But I don't, at this point, they don't deserve attention for, oh, look who won a bronze medal. Look who won a gold medal. Look at, no, we're going to be covering only the bad stuff or good. If good stuff happens, and I'm sure there's going to be some of that, great. But I don't care about who's winning medals. Not this year. It's been a long time since I have, actually. I was talking to my son. He was asking me. He's like, "Is there ever a time, when you were younger, did the Olympics matter?" I'm like, "Oh man, when I was younger, the Olympics were huge. I mean, it was exciting. Everybody was paying attention to it. Everybody was watching it. We didn't have 7,000 channels to choose from. So yeah, the Olympics, that was it for those couple of weeks during the Olympics. We were focused on it. I was telling him the story about Dan O'Brien and Mary Lou Retton and the Dream Team back in '92. I was telling, it's like, yeah, I mean, we were really paying attention. Today, it's like not so much, and maybe you do. Look, if you still like the Olympics and you're, that you try to harness the friendly competition and the patriotism that is supposed to be, at least for when I was younger, that's supposed to be what the Olympics represented. So be it. Maybe you could be the remnant. I don't think I'm not paying attention. Maybe somebody is, but I'm not. But one thing we did have to pay attention to, unfortunately, over the weekend was this craziness. And it was I'm not going to I'll rehash it a little bit. But it was essentially, it wasn't the opening ceremony for the Olympics. It was the opening ceremony for a Pride Day parade, an ongoing, nonstop Pride Month parade that just keeps. It's awful. And we need to understand exactly what it really means. This comes from an article over at PJ Media, Rabbi Michael Barkley. Paris Olympics opening ceremonies were a declaration of war on all religions. And I would argue, look, I get it. He's a rabbi. I would say this was definitely clearly a declaration of war against specifically Christianity. It's not just all religions, but yeah, if there's any remnant of attacks on Judaism or Islam or whatever, maybe even Hinduism. I didn't watch it, but if there was any of that, then I saw their attacks against the, and don't get me started on whether or not Leonardo. I was about to say DiCaprio, whether or not Leonardo da Vinci was a good guy or not, or if there's any hidden meanings in the this famous painting, The Last Supper. But they clearly were attacking it. They had some. I don't even know if was it a girl who was pretending to, I don't know. They had some big, huge lady in the center, the seat of honor, where, at least in the Last Supper painting where Jesus Christ sat, they had her sitting there, and then they had the table. It was all sorts. Let me see if they actually have a picture. They don't. That's probably a good thing. I don't want to display it any further. But let's talk about this article real quick, because I don't wholeheartedly agree with it, but I do agree with some of the sentiment. In May of 2023, I wrote an article about how every person of faith should boycott Major League Baseball, despite my deep love for the game, because of the LA Dodgers' choice to honor an anti-Catholic transvestite group at their Pride Night. As I explained then, it was not because of their sexual proclivities, but because of their anti-Catholic practices, such as men dressing as nuns and using holy items as sexual devices. General Michael Flynn, Steve Bannon, and Catholics for Catholics used the article as a rallying cry to have a demonstration at Dodger Stadium that was a powerful expression of people of different faiths, including the author, standing up for each other against the war on all religions. Athletics are meant to be clean of political agendas. They are meant to be an opportunity to show the excellence and potential of humanity in the physical form. And yet, we must now all confront the same issue within the greatest sporting event in the world, the Olympics. The Paris Olympics had their opening ceremonies, and instead of being an opportunity to honor the best athletes around the world, they became a weapon in the war against Christianity. Instead of honoring athletes, much of the ceremonies were a tribute to drag queens and child grooming, and, most importantly, a direct attack on everyone who accepts the Gospels. Included in the opening ceremonies was a parody of the Last Supper. Jesus was portrayed by an obese woman showing her cleavage in a bustier, and all of the disciples were transvestites, along with one child. In front of them was a nearly naked French actor in a blue body paint and almost nothing else, moving sexually as the Greek god Dionysus. There were a lot of other blatantly sexual parts, including a menage a trois with 3 young adults going off to have their sexual romp, actors showing parts of their genitals, and other sexual scenes that are certainly inappropriate for younger audiences. But the Last Supper sequence was not just inappropriate, it was an act of war. And we have to remember this, folks. It was an act of war against Christianity, and as such, against all people of faith. The Last Supper was one of the holiest moments in the Christian faith. Every apostle, with the exception of Judas, is a saint. These are the founders of the religion, having their last meal with Jesus. It is a transcendent moment of holiness, and the last time all of these holy beings assembled together in the physical world. A mockery of this sacred moment is morally wrong at all times. To do so in a public forum with a large audience is not only disrespectful, it is despicable. To do it as part of an opening ceremony for the Olympics, an event committed to bringing people, cultures, and nations together, is even worse. It is the conscious use of depravity against the holiness of God. And again, folks, I cannot stress this enough. Look, I said I didn't agree with that. I'm not even going to get to the parts that I disagree with. I'm just going to say this, he's absolutely correct, 100% correct. This isn't just, they're just being silly. They're just out there doing their thing, being silly. Oh, look at the transvestites pretending to be apostles. No, this was a deliberate and extraordinarily aggressive attack against the Christian faith. It was a declaration of war. Not that we need it anymore, because we've already seen dozens, hundreds, thousands of them over the past decade. But this is them saying, they were giving the middle finger, multiple middle fingers, as many middle fingers as they could muster. They were saying, your faith is folly. We spit on your faith. We spit on your God. We spit on your beliefs. And the funny part is, one of the local, not local, I don't know if it's a French thing or a Parisian thing, it's city-based or state-based, I don't know. But the dominant LGBTQIA plus supremacy group of activists in the area, they actually came out and said, yeah, it's a start, but they didn't really, it's just we're really starting to get into the equity and equality aspect of for trans people, and it didn't go far enough, is basically what they were saying. Look, people can do what they want to do. I'm not going to sit here and judge individual people based upon what they do in the privacy of their home or what they do wherever, as long as they're not doing it. Just as I wouldn't want to engage in any sexual activity with, as a heterosexual man, I wouldn't want to engage in any sexual activity in public with anybody else, especially if children are watching. Nor do I want to see that or allow that to be seen in public, but from anybody. I don't care what sort of protections these and they're freaks, okay? I'm not saying, but to be clear, I'm not saying that everybody who commits sexual sin is a freak. Those people were freaks, okay? They are freaks. I'm not trying to say that in like a attack on J.D. Vance way. Oh, it's creepy and weird. No, they're legitimately, there's a mental sickness there. There's a demonic sickness there. Let's go to break. When we get back, gosh, I only got to one story. When we get back, no, I got to 2 stories. Good. When we get back, I'll finish off the hour, and we'll be good to go. All right, let's play a little Jeopardy here. The answer is this bar. This bar is the answer to the question I'm about to ask. The question, though, is, how do you carry around wealth in your wallet? How do you make wealth that's portable, that you can break apart because it's perforated, that you can use for emergency situations as a way to have essentially wealth in your wallet? Well, that's why we have the Prepper Bar, and I'm very excited to introduce it to you. It will be both silver and gold. It's available, and it's a awesome little 62-gram bar that literally fits in your wallet. I wish I had my wallet with me. I do. I have it right here. I'm going to demonstrate because I'm not just playing around here. Here's my wallet, if you can see it on the screen. And here's my prepper bar. You could take it. I'm not going to break it because this is mine. But you could take it. You could break apart little bits and pieces from it. It is absolutely amazing. I am super, super proud and super blessed to have this available as wealth, literally wealth in my wallet. You too can own your own prepper bars. You can get a bunch of them, stick them in the safe. You can put 1 or 2 or 5 in your wallet or in your purse or wherever to keep with you just in case. You know, you take a bar, you might have to shave off parts of it. Well, you wouldn't have to do that here. If you need to trade or barter for food or safe passage or anything like that, prepper bar is the answer. And it is available exclusively from the one company. If you are interested, then go. You don't even have to tell them I sent you. Just go visit prepperbarnow.com. That's prepperbarnow.com. So my governor of the state of California, Mr. Gruesome Gavin Newsom, is at it again. He's trying to get, I guess, reinsert himself into the political discussion. Obviously, he cannot be the Kamala Harris's vice president because he's in California, she's in California. There's this thing called the Constitution that prohibits the vice president and president from being from the same state. I've never actually understood that one. Maybe some of you constitutional scholars can enlighten me. I'm not sure why that is the case, but so be it. You know, it's still there, so we still have to abide by it. If we want to change it, we need a constitutional amendment. So, speaking of which, I'm not going to talk about it today, but the push by Joe Biden to have a constitutional amendment that basically changes and nerfs the Supreme Court is ludicrous. The only reason I'm not going to talk about it is because it just can't happen. It won't happen. It's not going to happen. You know, take that one to the bank. I'm at 99%. There's always a 1% chance that stupid things happen, but we'll see. I don't think we're not to that level of stupid yet. But you know who is? Kamala Harris. There's a campaign ad. It was a parody, very clearly satire, very clearly a parody. No person in their right mind would think that this is actually not an AI-generated Kamala Harris campaign ad, but apparently Gavin Newsom took offense to it because Elon Musk posted it, so therefore it must be bad. So let's play that one real quick. This is funny. Maybe it is. Is it? I do have it.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Mr. Mr. Reagan USA Twitter account is fantastic, and you should definitely follow it because you get stuff like that. They do a fine job of putting stuff together. Look, that ad was funny, especially I had forgotten about the whole have a strong alliance with North Korea. That one was great. And then the cackle at the end. The cackle. Oh, the cackle. Article over at Not the Bee highlights the governor of California says he'll make certain parody ads illegal after tweaked Kamala Harris vid goes viral. Gavin Newsom is going to send this by Harris Rigby over at notthebee.com. Gavin Newsom is going to save democracy by banning satire. Over the weekend, Elon Musk shared a Kamala Harris parody ad that is obviously a parody. I mean, so very clearly a parody. But guess what? Who didn't seem to get the joke? Yep, California's weird woke governor, according to a tweet by Gavin Newsom. Manipulating a voice in an ad like this one should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. Wow. Elon Musk replied by saying, I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Sugon D's Nuts. He said, parody is legal in America. And yes, it is. Protect us from the jokes, Gavin. Protect us from the jokes. The left wants to make effective satire illegal, and Newsom is being explicit about it. You'd think he'd sign the bill because of any of the hundreds of hilarious Trump parodies out there. Now, what about, talking about, you didn't see Gavin Newsom or anybody out there crying for censorship, for videos such as the time when Kathy Griffin lifted the head of what appeared to be the severed head of Donald Trump. I mean, that's literally an attack. I mean, not an attack, but it's whatever you want to call it. It's a symbolism of the death of a president. You didn't see him out there. Oh, this is dangerous. This is no. Or what about the times when you have all these Democrats out there talking about wanting to shoot President Trump or kill President Trump, or somebody should, all that stuff. You don't hear Gavin Newsom going after them. Or what about the people still today who are saying that they wish that Thomas Michael Crooks had not missed? Is that wrong? No. That's not wrong, according to Gavin Newsom. And by the way, it's not. To be clear, let me establish my free speech credentials when I don't think that Kathy Griffin or any of these people should be censored for their opinion. Anything that is, we'll get into that in a second. But he wants to go after, because he's scared. And this is what he's basically saying. Gavin Newsom is saying that, unfortunately, videos like this they need to be outlawed. They need to be illegal because voters are too stupid to recognize satire, to recognize a parody video. I watch this video and darn it, somebody out there is going to think, oh my gosh, Kamala Harris really did make this ad, and that's totally Kamala Harris making a fool of herself, and Kamala's, oh my gosh. Yeah, Gavin Newsom thinks that you and me, thinks that we're stupid. Watch out, SNL. Back to the article. Watch out, SNL. Gavin might come for you next. No, I'm not going to play it. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Gavin Newsom, total authoritarian, just again trying to insert himself. And I don't know if maybe he's the shining white knight that Barack Obama and company are going to try to drop in there to replace Kamala Harris if they do decide to do that, or if they're even able to do that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not 100% convinced that she's going to be the nominee. We'll see. Once it's in stone and bronzed and all that stuff, then we'll talk about it. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep ripping on her because, well, it's fun. I mean, I do hope that she is the nominee. To be clear, she is going to be arguably just next to Hillary Clinton as far as the most enjoyable person to go after. And that's, if it was Eric Swalwell, of course that would be great, but he already went there, tried that, failed miserably, so unfortunately we're never going to have an Eric Swalwell nomination. That would have been hilarious. But real quick, back to free speech. Parody videos, videos like what Kathy Griffin did, anything like that. There's only one type of quote-unquote speech that I think should be outlawed and is outlawed. The only thing that I could say is truly hate speech, and that's if has a reasonable expectation that it will lead to criminal acts, especially violence. So the example that I always give, yes, it's free speech for people to go out and chant from the river to the sea. The thing about wanting to destroy Israel. People are like, oh, but that's hate speech. Well, no, I mean, it's just a statement. It's not like that can lead to anything. It's not like the Ayatollah is going to sit there and watch these guys and say, oh, well, let's go ahead and invade Israel as a result of this, people. But if you were to say, hey, you guys go beat up that Jew standing over there, that's not free speech. Protected. You can't go down that road. All right. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless. For years, really, I have been very opposed to email newsletters. It really comes down to two reasons. Number one, I hate the spammy ads. I hate seeing pictures of foot fungus or whatever sent to my inbox. It just bugs me to death. Okay, just get the crappy ads out of there, and I'd be okay. And for whatever reason, I thought that maybe those were emails. But number two is that if you really want a clear picture, you got to subscribe to like 15 different emails. You got to get the Breitbart email, the Epoch Times email, and multiples for both of those, and then the Gateway Pundit email. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the sites that I like. Don't worry about that. I don't want to get 15, 20 emails a day. Okay, so knowing this, but also knowing that with cancel culture, with deplatforming, there's always a chance that I won't be able to reach my audience. I won't be able to reach you. And so as a result, I started talking to some very, very intelligent people that showed me, hey, we can avoid the foot fungus and we can consolidate the emails, right? Okay, great. Show me how. And they showed me how. So as of this month, we started putting it together and I started examining it. And it's like, holy cow, this would actually work. We could actually put out daily newsletters that reach that pull from a wide variety of sources. You don't have to just get the Breitbart newsletter and get 15 articles from Breitbart. You could get our newsletter, and there's going to be an article from Breitbart maybe, or article from the Epoch Times, or Slay News, or the Gateway Pundit, or the Liberty Daily, or wherever. Okay, and we're going to pull in between 10 and 20 articles every day and send these out as a newsletter. That way you can get my bird's eye view of what's happening. I create all these. Nothing is automated. I actually go through and I pick out each individual story based upon whether or not I think it's important enough for you to read. So there's that. But we've also taken it a step further, and we've divided it up into 3 types of newsletters. We've got one Discern Report that is designed for conservative politics, conservative geopolitics, culture. I don't want to say standard, because there's nothing standard about it, but it's the sort of stuff that you could take it and you could send it to your Fox News watching grandmother and not be too embarrassed or think that she's going to think that you're into like snake venom injections or anything like that. So and you can get to there by going to discernreport.com, and there's a sign up there. That's the homegrown version. Or you can go to discernreport.substack.com and sign up there. Either way, it's the same content. So whether you go there or there, sign up and you'll get that newsletter. So we have newsletter number 2, which is called Based Underground. You can go to basedunderground.com and be able to sign up there, or you can sign up at basedunderground.substack.com. It's based, it's underground. It's going to be more of the snake venom stuff. The more conspiracy theories is the easiest way to put it. And for those who, if you're not aware, I'm very selective with the conspiracy theories that I publish. I'm not out there just grabbing all kinds of crazy things. It's okay, so this one might be legit. Let's go with it. And then the third one, arguably the most important one, is the J.D. Rucker newsletter, jdrucker.substack.com. You can get to it through noqreport.com, through americafirstreport.com. This is going to be everything else. Everything that I do, everything that I believe is important, I'm going to put it there. So check them out. There's 3 options. Pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, and start getting the truth every day.